Welcome to Bad at Goodbyes. Each week on our show, we spotlight species from the IUCN Critically Endangered Red List. These are plants and animals with decreasing populations, nearing the edges of extinction. And so we'll share species research, information, and conservation proposals. And then we'll spend a chunk of the show opening a space for contemplation and awe. We'll perform a kind of meditative soundscape of gentleness and quietude and reflection. And maybe mourning. There is a very low likelihood that any of these species will survive the 21st century. And so perhaps we might acknowledge their passage with a moment of our attention, recognition of our kinship, and with a commitment to personal and systemic change. Thank you for listening. On today's show, we consider the Cuban crocodile. The Cuban crocodile is considered a small to medium-sized crocodile, with adults typically reaching lengths of about 7 feet, weighing roughly 170 pounds, though the very largest Cuban crocs reach 11 feet in length, weighing over 450 pounds. Their body is covered in hard raised scutes, arranged in regular rows along the back and sides. These scutes are made of bone embedded beneath the outer skin, the epidermis, and provide flexible armored protection. Adults are typically a dull olive brown or gray, blending well with their surroundings. Their underside is paler, generally a creamy yellow or white. Their limbs are strong and muscular, adapted for both terrestrial locomotion and aquatic propulsion. So terrestrial locomotion, walking on land, aquatic propulsion, swimming in water. The forelimbs have 5 semi-webbed clawed digits, while the hind limbs have 4 digits, also webbed and clawed. The webbing aids in swimming and their maneuverability in the water, and the clawed digits help the croc navigate slippery terrain for climbing obstacles and can be used to build burrows for nesting. And of course, the claws are powerful defense weapons, and are also used for capturing, holding, and tearing apart prey. They are strong swimmers. Their streamlined bodies slice through the water, and their tail is long and powerful, more tall than wide, like say an oar or rudder, and the tail serves as their primary means of propulsion in the water, in which they can reach speeds of 20 miles an hour. They are even able to quickly leap from the water, using their tails to launch themselves several feet into the air to snatch birds or small mammals from riverbanks or from overhanging branches. On land, Cuban crocodiles are also fast and athletic. Unlike most crocs that have a low posture with their bellies close to the ground, Cuban crocodiles have a semi-erect posture, so they have like a more upright stance. And they are able to what scientists call high walk. This is lifting their bellies and tail entirely off the ground, which of course allows for quicker motion. Cuban crocodile are one of the few crocs observed galloping. Gallop is in fact a technical term to describe a kind of quadrupedal locomotion. So quadrupedal just means four legs. And so a gallop is a gait where the hind legs provide the primary propulsive force, and it includes what's called a suspension phase, a moment in the stride where all 4 feet are off the ground simultaneously. So perhaps you can picture this from like a horse, from like a galloping horse. But now picture that movement in a clawed, armored reptile who can reach speeds of 22 miles an hour on land with a massive jaw and unbelievable teeth. The Cuban crocodile's head has a short, broad, kind of diamond-shaped snout that tapers towards the nostrils. The croc's nostrils point upward, allowing them to breathe while keeping most of their body submerged underwater. The lower jaw is hinged far back on the skull, allowing for a wider gape, and its jaw muscles are incredibly strong, with a bite force of over 2,000 newtons. Newtons are the units that we use to describe force. So like, as an analogy, this would be like the weight of a baby grand piano, but pressing upon you, the weight of a baby grand piano pressing upon you, but like concentrated into a 10 times smaller space. They're roughly like 3 square foot toothed mouth. Cuban crocodiles typically possess 68 teeth. Front teeth are conical and sharp, designed for seizing and holding prey, while the back teeth are broader, ideal for crushing bone. Their teeth grow continuously throughout their life, so new teeth are constantly growing beneath the existing ones, ready to take their place, like when the old ones fall out. The mouth itself is lined with a tough membrane to withstand injury from struggling prey. And at the back of their throat, they have a palatal valve. So there's like a flap of skin that prevents water from entering their lungs when they are submerged. The Cuban crocodile's diet shifts and adapts throughout its life, reflecting changing energy needs, habitat, and prey availability. As small juveniles, their primary foods are insects, crustaceans, and small fish. So this is an easily available diet to fuel their initial growth and development. Then as they mature into adulthood, their diet expands significantly, reflecting increased size and strength and nutrition needs. As adults, fish remain a staple. They also actively hunt turtles, employing those powerful jaws to crush turtles' protective shells. They also hunt on land, preying on white-tailed deer, wild pigs and feral dogs, and rodents, including the hutia. This is a muskratish mammal native to Cuba. And as mentioned, they also hunt in the air, able to leap from the water. Crocs have been observed preying upon both birds and bats. Cuban crocodile employ multiple hunting strategies. So ambush, where they're quietly submerged with only their eyes and nostrils exposed, waiting, and then quickly striking when prey nears. They also patrol, so this is actively ranging their territory in search of prey, as mentioned, on both land and in the water. They use distraction. The Cuban croc will wave its tail to confuse prey before pouncing. They've also demonstrated tool use, using sticks and branches to lure birds. Researchers have observed the Cuban crocodile strategically positioning sticks and branches on their snouts while submerged near the water's edge, attracting birds seeking out nesting material, and then pouncing. And there is scientific documentation of Cuban croc engaging in cooperative hunting, so like pack hunting, multiple individuals working together in coordinated and cooperative ways to like corral and capture larger prey, such as like the deer or the wild pigs. Tool and pack hunting are extremely rare behavior among reptile species, and are indicative of the Cuban crocodile's intelligence, social behavior, and communication abilities. Scientific observation and research suggests that they are social and are capable of learning and problem solving. While generally solitary and they can be aggressively territorial, they will participate in group behavior during mating season, when sharing basking sites, and as mentioned, like on the hunt. They demonstrate established social hierarchies that are forged through displays of aggression and dominance, and through a complex of visual and auditory signals. Their vocalizations include roars, bellows, and hisses, and nonverbal communication like water slaps, bubbling, and using body language to express status, emotion, and intentions. For instance, males bellow to attract mates and will bubble the water near their breeding pair in a kind of like playful intimacy. They'll use hisses and roars to warn off others from their territory, and females will bellow in defense of their nest at both male and other female crocodile, and use specific vocalizations solely to communicate with their offspring. Mother crocodile have been observed using gentle water slaps to communicate with their young, guiding them or signaling them to keep close. During mating season, Cuban crocodile males become particularly territorial and engage in demonstrative displays like head and tail water slapping, body inflation, tail arching, all aimed at kind of showcasing their size and strength to attract female. If a female is receptive, the further courtship will include nuzzling, snout to snout water bubbling, so like the crocs will use their nostrils to gently blow bubbles like to each other. And in captivity, scientists have observed a male Cuban croc giving females rides on their back in a kind of like play behavior that preceded mating. Copulation is brief and takes place underwater, with the male on top and the female almost entirely submerged. Long thought to be polygynous, so that means that a male had multiple female mates during a single breeding season. Recent observations now suggest that the Cuban croc may be polygamous, meaning both males and females take multiple mates. While we've no evidence of like true long-term breeding pairs, crocodiles do exhibit preferences for specific individuals in subsequent breeding seasons, so this suggests like familiarity and recognition over time. After mating, the female constructs a nest by building small mounds of peat, often near the water's edge. She then lays a clutch of 30 to 40 1 to 2 inch size eggs, although nests have been observed with as many as 60 eggs. This comparatively large number of eggs is due to predation pressure on both the eggs and young hatchling crocodiles from raccoons, heron, introduced mongoose, introduced monitor lizards, and in fact the predation of young by other Cuban crocodiles. The eggs incubate for around 2 months, during which the female remains close to the nest, guarding it against these threats. Once hatched, baby crocodile are a few inches long and have an egg tooth on their snout that helps them break out of the egg. And then the young's egg tooth is shed soon after hatching. Once fully hatched, the mother gently carries her offspring to the water in her mouth, and she continues to provide protection and guidance for up to a year as the young crocodile stay within their mother's territory, growing, learning essential survival and hunting skills, and eventually becoming independent. Though juveniles become independent in about a year, it takes roughly 6 years for the Cuban crocodile to reach full reproductive maturity. The Cuban crocodile can live up to 75 years old in the wild. In the dream, we make our song submerged. In the dream, water-tongued. A sonorous rippling, a bubbling, a melody of swish and impact. an aquatic gesturing of muted lyric, of current through river soak, inscribed over seasons, drenched notes flowing, entreating, wet and curious and low. It is, of course, a love song in the dream. The Cuban crocodile is native to the island of Cuba, located in the northern Caribbean Sea. Their only remaining habitat is approximately 150 square miles in the Zapata Swamp in the southwestern part of the island, roughly 60 miles south of Havana. Zapata Swamp is a Cuban wetlands bioregion characterized by a blend of freshwater streams and marshes, mangrove forests, peat bogs, and coastal lagoons. The Cuban croc is a freshwater species, hunting and breeding in the rivers and swamps, rarely venturing into the brackish estuaries near the sea. Zapata Swamp has a tropical climate with distinct wet and dry seasons. Summers are wet, hot, and humid, with high temperatures reaching into the 90s, and the winters are mild, with average low temperatures dipping into the mid-60s. Annual rainfall is substantial, averaging roughly 55 inches, with the majority falling during that summertime. The Cuban crocodile shares this swampland with apple snail, sawgrass, Cuban kite swallowtail, Cuban boa, royal palm, bee hummingbird, Cuban parakeet, mangrove, hutia, American crocodile, woodpecker, turtle, palmetto, water lily, Cuban toady, buttonwood, land crab, Cuban gar, sea grape, Cuban tree frog, and many, many more. Historically, overhunting has played a significant role in the decline of the Cuban crocodile population. In the early 1900s, over 90,000 crocodile were slaughtered for the exotic leather industry. And though it's been illegal to hunt the Cuban crocodile since 1967, poaching has continued to the present day. For example, in 2017, researchers found video evidence on YouTube of boatloads of slaughtered crocodile being transported out of Zapata Swamp. And over the past decade, there have been observations of Cuban crocodile meat on the menus of local restaurants catering exotic meals to international tourists. Historic habitat loss and fragmentation has also posed a significant threat. The expansion of human agriculture and infrastructure development has encroached upon the crocodile's habitat, which once ranged across Cuba, and also on the Cayman Islands, the Bahamas, in the Dominican Republic, and in Haiti. Relatedly, current habitats have been affected by water pollution from agricultural runoff. Human-introduced species, like feral cats, mongoose, and monitor lizards, prey on crocodile eggs and young. And human-induced climate change poses a long-term threat. Predicted rise in sea level threatens the near-coast freshwater habitat of the Cuban crocodile. The introduction of salt water into these marshlands will not only affect the crocodile itself, but also the prey species on which it feeds, further imperiling its survival. There are extensive Cuban crocodile captive breeding programs in place in Cuba, the US, Europe, and Asia. The Zapata Crocodile Farm in Cuba manages roughly 4,000 Cuban crocodiles, raising offspring for potential reintroduction. The Cuban crocodile is legally protected, and most of its current habitat is protected within the Zapata Swamp National Park. Nevertheless, the Cuban crocodile has been considered critically endangered on the IUCN Red List since 2008, and their population is currently in decline. Our most recent counts estimate that less than 2,400 Cuban crocodile remain in the wild. Information for today's show about the Cuban crocodile was compiled from the Encyclopedia Britannica, Crocodiles Status Survey and Conservation Action Plan 3rd edition, PLOS 1, Volume 7, Issue 3, the Smithsonian's National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute, Ethology, Ecology, and Evolution, Volume 27, Issue 2, and the Herpetological Review, Volume 42, Issue 2, Volume 46, Issue 2, Volume 47, Issue 2, and Volume 48, Issue 2. We love the Herpetological Review over here. Also gathered information from Wikipedia and the IUCN. And so in a moment, I would like to perform some music in hope of opening a space to be in contemplation of the other lives with whom we share our earth. This music is not like for the Cuban crocodile. I don't want to put meaning upon the Cuban crocodile or extract meaning from it. Instead, I want this music to be a demonstration of my human awe, and also to be a moment to consider my own relationship to other beings. So I'll create and sit in this space of sound and awe and reflection, and I warmly invite you to join me. I honor the life force of the Cuban crocodile. I will carry its human name in my record. I am grateful to have shared time on our planet with this being. And I lament the ways in which I and my species have harmed and diminished this species. And so, in the name of the Cuban crocodile, I pledge to reduce my consumption and my carbon footprint and my wastefulness. I pledge to acknowledge and attempt to address the costs of my actions and inactions. And I pledge to resist the harm of plant or animal kin or their habitat by individuals, corporations, and governments. I pledge my song to the witness and memory of all life, to a broad celebration of biodiversity, and to the total liberation of all beings. This has been Bad at Goodbyes. Thank you for listening. Until next time, let's take care of each other and all of our kin. Goodbye.